So without any further ado, Tim, would you like to start your presentation?
Thanks, Chris. And I won't be providing a presentation for the exact same reason that the last one froze. So no, I don't. Anybody who's known me for very long knows I usually don't do PowerPoints, but we are developing some that going forward that will be based on implementation of the Great Salt Lake Strategic Plan. So thanks for having me. And I'm really glad you have Laura Vernon on to talk about the Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan. I was going to hit on a couple items of that, but I'll let her do that. Just for those of you who don't know, the Great Salt Lake Commissioner's Office was created in 2023. Brian Steed was appointed and took the role of the first Great Salt Lake Commissioner on July 2023, and then I came on in November 2023. And we were directed to develop by statute, a strategic plan for the Great Salt Lake. And that plan, I added a link to it in the chat. I also added a link to the Basin Integrated Plan page. That plan was approved by the governor at the end of 2023 after consultation with the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate, and became public January 15th of 2024. The plan includes both background on the lake, how the lake got to its lowest recorded level ever in 2022, as well as a series of actions, short-term, medium-term, and long-term actions that we are proposing to take to get the lake to a healthy range and sustain it there. Those actions are organized in under 4 objectives, and the first one is better coordination. There are 11 state entities, 11 state agencies, 5 federal agencies who are actively engaged in work on one issue or another of the related to the Great Salt Lake. And then we need entities like the Jordan River Commission, watershed councils, the conservation districts, and others are all involved and are important will be important to get the lake to a healthy level and sustain it. So better coordination is the first objective within the strategic plan. And our agency, so the Commissioner's Office, has official authority over all of the state agencies those 11 state agencies that work on Great Salt Lake issues. However, our goal is to always work in coordination with them and with you going forward as we're implementing the plan. So that's the first objective, is better coordination. The second one is best available science. We want to make sure that we have the best available science to make decisions related to the Great Salt Lake. If we don't have the best available science, we need to develop science and data, then we'll make investments in order to get that science, whether it's on dust, whether it's on modeling that the Basin Integrated Plan is going to do. We're looking at making investments in new data and science to guide us as we go forward. Third is the most obvious. It's get more water to the lake. And that is one of our primary focuses, is to ensure that we're doing what we need to get water to the lake. And so the Great Salt Lake Strategic Plan establishes for the first time an official target level for the lake. That target level is getting the lake to an elevation of 4198 to 4205 feet above sea level. And it also includes an interim target of 4195. We're committing to develop a more detailed plan on how do we get the lake to that healthy range, sustain it there over the next 30 years. So we're working on that more detailed plan right now. And that will be out by January. Just how much additional conservation how much additional water do we need to get to the lake each year on average on average for 30 years to get it to that healthy range and sustain it. We also established a floor for the lake, and that floor is at an elevation of 4190. The purpose of establishing a floor is that in 2022, when the lake fell to its lowest level, we need to that elevation was 4190, 4188.5. And at that, when the lake fell to that level, salinity levels are spiking. We were beginning to see a collapse of ecosystem in the South Arm. So by setting a floor for the lake a foot and a half above that, our goal is to make sure that we're taking every action we can to ensure we don't go back to the same level as 2022. So, and then the last objective in the plan is to protect air quality and water quality. I will hit, Chris, I'm happy to hit on where we're at with the current elevation.
Okay, thanks.
So we have actions, including increased conservation, change and developing a new model for how we grow within the Great Salt Lake Basin, ensuring that as we grow it, we value water and the lake, and then exploring water augmentation in the long term, including the Division of Water Resources is already working on cloud seeding. So that's the broad sweep of the plan. If you haven't read it, I'd encourage you to. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know. So like I said, I put that in the chat. Today, the lake has come up 6 feet as of yesterday, from the lowest, that low level we saw in 2022. The lake is at 4190, 4.6, but we're still roughly 3.5 feet below that healthy range. So while we had a great snow year last year, good snow year this year, the lake has come up significantly from where we were at the historic low. We still have a lot of work to do, and especially, and I was just in a meeting and gave another talk this morning with Dr. Kevin Perry from the U. He estimates, based on tree ring data, that we are just in the middle of a mega drought, and based on past mega droughts, we probably still have 10 to 12 years. And that these last 2 years are predictable, because about every 12 to 13 years we get in Utah, we have a wet cycle that we would see a wetter year, even though we're in the middle of a mega drought. So our goal in implementing the plan is to work with everyone across the basin, ensure that we are conserving water, dedicating that conserved water to the lake, and delivering it to the lake in a way that is balanced with the other water needs we have. And then working with the Jordan River Commission and other watershed and watershed groups across the basin, as well as other stakeholders, to ensure that we're not undermining the different goals and missions that you have, as we're focused on getting the lake to a healthy level, but we need to be all working together to get us there. So that is where I'll probably stop. And Soren, I'm happy to have hit. If I missed on anything you wanted me to cover, feel free to ask me and let me know.
No, that was great. The perfect overview. Thank you.
Any questions?
I guess I have one question. Just you hit on it a little bit, but I'm wondering if you can elaborate. Right now there's about, it seems like 5 or 6 different, strategic plans out there and things like that. And can you talk a little bit more about the purview of the commission? And I think we know more about the legislative authority, but where do you guys sit kind of within the matrix of, all these other agencies? It sounds like maybe you're kind of overseeing or on top of the different state agencies. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, as it relates to so there's two. I'll give you, yeah, Chris. We actually Laura had a meeting with her advisory council on the Basin Integrated Plan. That was just yesterday, and what she suggested is that we needed to work on how do we communicate all those different plans, how they interlock. And so I think we're going to be working on a visual that'll help explain how they fit together. The way I see it is statutorily, the Great Salt Lake Commissioner's Office does have oversight and over the whether it's Division of Water Resources, the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, the Great Salt Lake Enhancement Trust. Uh, we have oversight authority of each of those entities, and I see as it relates to the lake itself, the Great Salt Lake Strategic Plan sits on top of all those other plans, whether it's the comprehensive management plan that the Division of Forestry and Fire and State Lands is working on for Great Salt Lake, and they're also doing one for Utah Lake, as well as the Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan. And that plan is looking all the way across the basin and all. But again, as that plan relates and the comprehensive management plan relates to the Great Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake Strategic Plan sits on top of those and
Okay.
governs.
It's like how we're going to get there. Okay. And I guess one other really quick question is what's the role of the commission? Is it advisory, regulatory? Where does it? What kind of authority? I guess authority is kind of the question I'm asking there.
So we essentially I think the best way to describe it, even though it's probably the worst term to use, is Commissioner Steed basically has a czar like role over all the state entities that are within that impact the Great Salt Lake. So it's not advisory. Our number one directive and statute was to develop the strategic plan and then work with state agencies and stakeholders to implement it. And so that the strategic plan itself governs the actions that agencies underneath us are taking related to the Great Salt Lake.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Any other questions? I don't want to dominate, but.
No, and Chris, this is a great question because one of the reasons the commissioner's office was created was we had all these 11 state agencies and all these stakeholders and all of these federal agencies working, and they were doing really good things, but there was no, I guess the way Brian Steed talks about, there was no quarterback. There was no one who was helping coordinate all those efforts and making sure we were pulling in the same direction. That's why our office was created.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
I've got a question.
Yeah, fire away, Eric.
I was wondering, what is I heard there was this Utah Lake study that came out of the legislature looking at, moving water from Utah Lake down to Great Salt Lake, and obviously it's going to go through the Jordan River. Do you have any brief summary of what that actually means? Because, I've heard all kinds of things.
So I can give you a very brief summary because there was a new plan for Utah Lake that is looking kind of comprehensively at Utah Lake management. I think it includes one sentence in the statute and coordination of waters for the Great Salt Lake. That is all the direction the statute gives. And the Division of Forestry and Fire and State Lands is they're the responsible party since Utah Lake is sovereign land and they manage sovereign lands for the state. So is the Great Salt Lake from below the high water mark is sovereign land. It's again managed by Forestry, Fire and State Lands. I think they're just now working on putting together an RFP to go out and hire a consultant to work on that Utah Lake plan. But I think the flows to the Great Salt Lake from Utah Lake in that plan, I think that's gotten more emphasis than the statute actually that's included in the statute. The statute directing forestry, fire, and state lands to do that study is much more about Utah Lake than it is about water going from Utah Lake to the Great Salt Lake.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And so I'd say stay tuned. I think there will be a public process with that planning effort as well. The other things that people just have to stay aware of is the water in Utah Lake is very much and like all water use across the state, it's really, there's water rights, and there's believe there's Utah Lake settlement for how water is delivered to Utah Lake when it can be released, and that all has to be done in accordance with the prior appropriation doctrine, and much of that is governed by the state engineer and the Division of Water Rights. Okay. I got the emoji thumbs up from Eric, so I'm running with it.
All right. Yep. All right. Any other questions? Got a few minutes.
If you do think of anything, if you have any suggestions or questions, I'm easy to find. I'll also put in the Great Salt Lake Commissioner's website link, because there's a lot of information there. You can easily find the current conditions on the lake as well. So just look under the Commissioner's link, and you'll see both my contact information as well as Brian Steed's. So thanks again for the opportunity, and I'll hang out and hear what I'd like to hear Laura's piece too, if that's all right.
Great. Hey, one last quick question.
Sure.
What do we think that the lake is going to come up to after the snow melt this year? Or looks like we're close to hitting at least the interim level.
Yeah, NRCS just made so there was a meeting on Tuesday that looked at forecasts for the next month, and really looking for the throughout runoff with our federal partners. And I think their middle of the road estimate is that it'll come up potentially another 0.9 feet. So that means we could get above 4195, the interim target. And however, I do the lake elevation on average usually peaks May 1st. So we only have a couple weeks till May 1st. Hopefully, with all the snowpack at the level that it is up high, that'll drag out for a couple more weeks. So we'll continue to bring the lake up. But May 1st is also when a lot of irrigation companies and others start diverting. So we'll just have to see. I'm hopeful we'll get above 4195. And hopefully it's close to 4196 as we can, because during these wet years, it's critical that we get as much water to the lake as we can, while it's not impacting or harming other people.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Tim.
Sorry, I
Thanks, Chris.
had one more question. I apologize. And maybe Tim, you covered this, but the target levels, are those the targets for kind of like the low point, or targets for the peak snowmelt elevation?
So the target levels in the strategic plan, Rose?
Yeah.
So we have an intermediate target level. That's just where we're shooting for to achieve and to be able to stay above 4195. And then the target range, the healthy range that we're shooting for, that's to get the lake to those elevations and sustain it within that range, that healthy range, which is 4198 to 4205.
Okay, so it wouldn't be that hitting the target level during the peak snowmelt, but having the minimum for the year be above that target.
Try to stay above that target.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you bet.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much, Tim.
You bet. Thanks.
Hey.